Batch Apex. What is Batch Apex in Salesforce? Batch Apex is used to process large sets of data asynchronously in smaller batches to avoid governor limits. Okay, second question. When would you use Batch Apex instead of other Apex methods? Batch Apex is used when you need to process large datasets over 50,000 records and need to bypass the synchronous execution time limits. Then you would use Batch Apex. Okay. Question number third. Well, explain the execution flow of Batch Apex. The execute method is called for each batch of records and the finish method is called after all batches are processed. Okay. Question number 4. How do you specify the batch size in Batch Apex? The batch size is automatically determined by Salesforce, but you can specify the batch size using the optional scope parameter in the database.execute batch method. How do you handle error in Batch Apex? You can implement the database.raises exception interface and handle exceptions using try catch block in the execute method. Okay. Queueable Apex. Now we will discussing about Queueable Apex. What is Queueable Apex in Salesforce? Queueable Apex is used to perform asynchronous processing of complex or long-running operations by adding them to the Apex job queue. Okay, what are the advantages of Queueable Apex over Batch Apex? Uh, the advantages of Queueable over Batch Apex are Queueable Apex has more flexible execution flow. It doesn't have limitations on the number of records and can be chained for complex processes. Can you call the Queueable Apex class from a Batch Apex class? Yes, you can call the Queueable Apex class from a Batch Apex class to perform some additional processing after the batch job completes. Then you can call the Queueable Apex class from the Batch Apex class. Schedule Apex. What is Schedule Apex in Salesforce? Schedule Apex allows you to schedule Apex classes to run at specified times or intervals. Okay, suppose you have an Apex class and you need to run this Apex class at a particular date and time. Then you have to schedule this your class as a schedule Apex class. Okay, how do you schedule an Apex class? You can schedule an Apex class by using the system.schedule method or by using Salesforce user interface. Can you schedule multiple instances of the same Apex class? Yes, you can schedule multiple instances of the same Apex class with different schedule times or intervals. Got it? How do you handle exception in Schedule Apex? You can handle exception in Schedule Apex by using try catch blocks in the execute method. Okay, feature methods. What is feature methods in Salesforce? A feature method is used to run long-running operations asynchronously in a separate thread and allow other code to continue executing. What are the limitations of feature methods? Feature methods have limitations such as not being able to call from triggers and has it limited callouts and not able to perform DML operations on a non-setup objects. So what are the limitations of feature method? First one, not able to call from triggers. Second, limited callout limits. And third, not being able to perform DML operations on a non-setup objects. Can you call a feature method from a Visual Force page? Yes, you can call a feature method from a Visual Force page, but you need to ensure that the method is annotated with @feature callout is equal to true for callouts. Then you can call feature method from a Visual Force page. Some scenario based question which were asked in Salesforce company, like you need to update a large number of records with complex logic. Which Apex feature would you use and why? So you must give an answer that I would use Batch Apex because it allows processing of large data sets and bypass the synchronous execution limits. Okay, when you need to process some large data set, then you should definitely go for Batch Apex because it's such it will be processed up to 50,000, more than 50,000 records you need to update and records. Okay, question number 17. You have a long running operations that makes a call out to an external system. Which Apex feature would you use and why? I answer, it means I would use Queueable Apex because it supports long running operations and asynchronous callouts. Okay, scenario 18. You need to perform a recurring task every day at a specific time. Which Apex feature would you use and why? Definitely you will go for schedule Apex because you have to run Apex classes in a scheduled every time and date. Okay, so I will use schedule Apex to schedule the tasks to run at a specified time every day. Scenario 19. You have a complex logic that requires multiple asynchronous operations to be executed in a specific order. Which Apex feature would you use and why? I would use Queueable Apex and chain the operation together to ensure the required order of execution. Scenario 20. You need to make a call out to an external system from a trigger. Which Apex feature would you use and why? So I would use a future method because it allows making call out asynchronously from a trigger and doesn't have call out limits. Scenario 1. How can you perform callout to an external API asynchronously in Salesforce? You can use a future method or Queueable Apex to perform asynchronous callouts to external APIs in Salesforce. Scenario 2. What is the difference between future method and Queueable Apex? Feature method are used for asynchronous process including callouts and have certain limitations. Okay. Queueable Apex provide more flexibility, supports complex processing and can be queued for execution. So major difference between feature method and Queueable Apex is this. Feature method are used for asynchronous processing, first one. It's including callouts and has certain limitation. Okay, and Queueable Apex provide more flexibility, support complex processing and can be queued for execution. How can you chain multiple Queueable Apex jobs together? You can chain multiple Queueable Apex jobs by implementing the Queueable interface and using the system.enqueueJob method to add jobs to the queue. Okay, got to it. Scenario 4. How can you handle errors or exceptions in asynchronous Apex? In asynchronous Apex, you can use try-catch blocks to handle exceptions and use the add error method to add custom error messages to records. Scenario 5. Can you perform DML operations in a feature method? Yes, you can perform DML operations on a non-setup object in a feature method. However, DML operations on setup objects are not allowed. Okay, DML operations on setup objects are not allowed. How do you make a call out from a Lightning components or Visual Force page? You can make a callout from a Lightning component or Visualforce page by using Apex method like future method, Queueable Apex, HTTP call mock interface or for testing. Scenario 7. How can you avoid hitting callout limits in Salesforce? You can avoid hitting callout limits by using asynchronous Apex methods like Queueable Apex, future method, which have separate limits from synchronous operations. Got my point? You can avoid hitting callout limits by asynchronous Apex method, like you can use Queueable Apex, you can use future method, which has separate limits from the synchronous operations. How do you handle the order of execution for multiple asynchronous operations? The order of execution can be controlled by chaining multiple queuable Apex jobs or using dependent feature method to ensure queuable sequential processing. How can you schedule an Apex class to run at specific intervals? You can use schedule Apex to schedule Apex class to run at specific intervals such as every hour, day, week, or month. How do we handle the governor limits in asynchronous Apex? Asynchronous Apex has its own set of governor limits, and you need to consider these limits while designing and implementing your code to avoid hitting the limits. Got my point? Asynchronous Apex has its own set of governor limits, as already I can discuss with you for earlier. Asynchronous Apex has its own governor limit, and you need to consider these limits while designing and implementing your code to avoid the limits. Okay, thank you all.